Okay, hi, my name is Muhammad Afiq bin Tatur Kermin, metric number 254926. Okay, today I'm going to present about the world rice and paddy situation. Okay, for the world rice production in 2019, China produced some 148.5 million metric tons of meal rice in the year 2018 and 2019, a higher volume than any other country. In that crop year, India came second with 116.42 million metric tons of meal rice. After rice is cultivated and harvested from rice paddies, it undergoes a process known as milling to prepare it for human consumption. In the year 2018 and 2019, the overall volume of meal rice produced worldwide reached 495.9 million metric tons. In that order, China, India, and Indonesia are the top rice consuming nations. Since 2000, the worldwide per capita intake of rice has remained remarkably constant, amounting to around 53.9 kg per year in 2018 and 19. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, for the second slide is about the Asia Sea and Vietnam and Thailand. Okay, first for Asia, for over half of the global population, rice is a staple meal. In Asia, about 90% of the world's rice is produced and consumed. Hence, rice production in Asia is the key of global food security. Growth in the stability of rice production has been a matter of concern for achieving food security, especially in developing countries. The present paper seeks to explore the region and productions growth rate of Asia's major rice growing countries. The export growth rates were also calculated and the contribution of Asia's major rice growing countries to global food security for the period between 1994 and 2013 was quantified. During 2004 until 2012, the export growth rate declined and stood at 4.01%. This is mainly due to the 2008 rice crisis in severe rice importing countries that gave impetus to expanded rice production. The study indicates that policymakers would need to steps to minimize supply chain losses and increase supply response time. For ASEAN, with the endorsement of the Association of Southeast Asia Nations, member states, and the support of three dialogue partners, the International Rice Research Institute, IRRI, has secured the launch of ASEAN Rice Net, a new regional network to exchange and evaluate advanced IRRI developed rice breeding lines. The endorsement enables IRRI to work closely with China, Japan, and Korea, the ASEAN Plus 3 dialogue partners, to establish both technology and financing support modalities for the network. The ASEAN Rice will be launched in 2020 and is expected to produce at least $500 million in economic benefits from release of varieties alone in the ASEAN region. In the long term, the network will help partner countries to co-develop new, improved rice varieties by enhancing ASEAN rice variety scientists' technical skills through training and capacity building across AMS organization for national rice breeding programs. ASEAN is a 10-country regional intergovernmental organization in Southeast Asia that fosters intergovernmental cooperation and promotes economic, political, security, military, educational, and socio-cultural integration between its members and other ASEAN countries. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. Okay, for Vietnam, agriculture plays a relatively significant role in Vietnam's economy. Agriculture accounts for 24% of GDP and provides 20% of export sales. About 70% of the national labour force is employed in the agricultural sector and a further 6% are employed in the post-production agricultural sector. The rice production growth rate was an average of 5.6% per year between 1990 and 1999, powered by increase in yield 2.8% per year and planted area 2.7% per year. Due to high stocks, Vietnamese exports to Indonesia have dropped 90%, decreases in the Philippines, Ivory Coast, and Oceania were compensated by increased volumes, with the amount rising 170% to nearly 2 million tons. The Philippines became the biggest export market, said by the USDA. For Thailand, the Office of Agricultural Economy, OAE, of the Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative, MOAC, is responsible for the data and information on the supply side at the farm and provincial level. Information on the demand side is obtained by the MOC and trading related private institution. The Departments of Internal Trade, DIT, gathers information on the daily price of rice, such as retail and wholesale prices for various types of rice varieties. Price information is available on the DIT website, which will be released in Thai this week. The selection process is by a selective system of interviews and reporting. In Thailand, the USDA project maize production in 2019 until 2020 to rise marginally to 4.5 million tons, powered by the government's price guarantee policy and direct payment for seed purchases by farmers. Wheat imports are important to hit 3.3 million tons in 2019-2020, up to 40% from 2018 to 2019 due to a rise import of meal wheat and feed wheat. Okay, let's go to the next slide.
Padi in Vietnam. Vietnam has nearly 4.5 million hectares of land in 1999, which in 2010 decreased to 4 million ha. The area of rice plant in 2009 reached 7.43 million ha, since 3 rice crops were planted by local farmers who own largest tract of land. Rice production increased to more than 38 million tons in 2009 from 32 million tons in 1999 because of the use of advanced science and technology, such as the introduction of numerous rice varieties, modern production model, and effective. Next, we can see the average rice yield in Vietnam is currently 5.2 ha. 3 cropping seasons are divided into rice production. First is winter spring, summer autumn, and the autumn winter. The weather, pest infestation, and irrigation level affect the quality of the crop, especially the winter spring crop. The yield of the 3 crop increased steadily from 1995 to 2009. According to GSO statistics, in 2009, the summer autumn and the autumn winter crop yield were around 4.3 until 4.7 ha, while the winter spring crop yield was over 6.1 ha. There are 2 factors of food production in Vietnam. First is rice consumption. The total daily food consumption was 388 grams per person, the equivalent of around 376 grams of rice in 135 kilograms per person per year. Around 2,400 calories per person per day are needed by Vietnamese, of which 1,400 calories is rice-based. The calorie intake of rice is predicted to decline to 1,254 calories by 2020. Food 75%, refining 13%, cattle feed 8%, and seed are the total domestic demand of use of rice 4%. The intake of food steadily increased to 11.7 million tons in 2009 from around 9.8 million tons in 1995. The average per capita intake of rice in 2002 was 12 kg per month, which fall to 11 kg per month in 2008. According to the GSO survey on people living standard, disparity in rice consumption pattern between the rural and urban population was also found in the survey. Second is foreign trade. Despite being the world's second largest export of rice, Vietnam still has to import rice because there is a strong demand for good quality rice from domestic consumer. In addition, to reduce the rice deficiency in the Chu Long River Delta region, Vietnam often need to import rice from Cambodia. Cambodia rice is typically shipped through the southwestern province. Vietnam import roughly 3,500 until 5,000 tons of rice in 2005 until 2009, according to the United States Department of Agriculture. So, this is the rice export value and rice export volume. In Vietnam, the total reserve of food crop, including household and taste and private enterprise, accounted for 13% of total national consumption. The highest share was in the central northern region, is 32.6%, and the lowest share was in the south region and the Mekong River Delta is 6% until 7%. The country aimed to achieve a rice reserve equal to 5 kg per person per year, or 4,050 ton per year under the National Reserve Strategy until 2010. However, the country need to raise the National Reserve to 1 million ton per year by 2020 in expectation of unusual climate change, natural disaster, and plant pest and disease in the next decade. There are 6 problems faced by Vietnam. First is the total number of poor households. Second is natural disasters such as flood, rain, landslide, and so on. Third is conversion of rice land. 4 is political dilemma or liberalizing its rice market. 5 is loss in agriculture productivity, weaken irrigation and drainage system, and degrade land resource. Last not but least is unstable food price.
My name is Ron Farhan Yossi, native number 25503. I will explain about paddy in Thailand. Thailand is one of the countries in the South Asia that has a strategic position consisting of 2 vast geographic areas, the largest side in the north and the smaller side in the south. Thailand famous for its 2 river systems, namely Chao Phraya in the west and Mekong in the east. Both of these rivers play important role in the Thailand agricultural system, especially for paddy cultivation. Thailand has a different rice cultivation environment according to region, namely central, north, east, south, and central. The most important region is the central because the region has a larger area of paddy cultivation during the rainy days. This region also has access to irrigation facility that allow paddy cultivation to be done twice a year. Thailand may rice supplies also come for this region. This is made for the Thailand country. Population of Thailand. Thailand has a population of 69,799,978 million people in 2010, which increased compared to 2019. The percentage change in total population over the last 5 years is between 0.5% until 0.25%. Rice production of Thailand. Thailand is second largest importer of rice in the world. Thailand produced the highest amount of rice in 2005 at 38.1 million tons. But by 2020, Thailand rice production is the lowest at 34.2 million tons. This declined due to COVID-19 pandemic. Also in 2015, Thailand experienced a significant decline in rice production of 27.42 million tons. This is due to the massive drought that hit Thailand. Paddy production of Thailand. The highest paddy production per hectare recorded by Thailand was in 2005 with a value of 3.18 per ha, while 2.88 per ha is the lowest value recorded by Thailand for paddy production per hectare in 2009 and 2010. Thailand rice consumption. There was just one rice consumption of Thailand decreased as in 2015 with consumption only 9,180 tons, compared with 2016 which recorded the highest consumption of rice which is 12,000 metric tons. This increased due to the growth rate of 31.87%. Thailand gross domestic product. The most significant increase was from 2010 to 2013 and 2016 to 2019. However, Thailand GDP between 2014 to 2015 experienced a decline due to several factors, including disease and the political unrest in Thailand. Thailand total export. Thailand has recorded the highest export volume in 2017, which was 11,628,303 metric tons, with Benin, South Africa, and the United States being the main importer of Thai rice. Among the type of rice imported by Thailand are Thai homemade rice, premium quality, Thai jasmine rice, and 100% white rice. Self-sufficiency ratio (SSR) indicates the relative of production in relation to domestic consumption. A ratio of less than 1% indicates insufficiency of food production to meet population demand. A ratio equal to 1% indicates that the food production capacity of this sector sufficient to meet the food need of the population. And a ratio more than 100% indicates the local production is more than enough to meet domestic needs. The higher the ratio, the greater the self-sufficiency. This is a self-sufficiency ratio formula and example how to measure rice SSR of Thailand for 1919. Rice SSR for Thailand. Based on this graph, it is found that rice self-sufficiency ratio for Thailand always 100%, which means local production is more than enough to meet domestic needs. Other measurements to measure sustainability rate of Thailand is difference between Thailand rice per capita production and Thailand rice per capita consumption. Per capita is a term used in economic and society to meet this question. Per capita production is the annual production of food and service for 8%, obtained by dividing the quantity of food or service produced by the total population. This is an example for Thailand rice per capita production for 1990. Net per capita consumption is the annual consumption of food or service by 8%, obtained by dividing the quantity of food or service consumed by the total population. This is example for Thailand rice per capita consumption for 1990. Based on the calculation above, it is found that Thailand rice production per capita exceeds the consumption of rice per capita. This means that Thailand rice production meets the needs of its people. In fact, there is a surplus of production that can be used for export purpose to other countries.
Okay, good day. My name is Nadira binti Ahmad. My metric number is 253257. So I will explain about the issues and challenges of rice industry. In Thailand, first is climate change, drought and flooding. Most of the rice cultivation in the northeastern region is done outside the irrigation zone and mainly depends on rainfall and climate. The rainfall in each year will affect both quality and quantity of the rice in this region. Currently, the climate variability causes unstable season and rain scattered during the year. The temperature and the rainfall fluctuate as well, and the extreme event often occur. And one more severe, the region always suffer from drought. Next is price fluctuation. In the past, price have slightly increased, and the farmers have always suffered from the price fluctuation. Especially northeastern farmers who grow the homely rice and RDG, which are photosensitive. Because of the photosensitivity, rice grow only once a year in the wet season and should be harvested during the same year from November to December. Next is increase of production cost. Farmers have to use agriculture machinery instead of human labor in almost all activities of production, such as tillage, cultivation, harvest, and also the production cost needs to include the increase of fertilizers cost as well. Lastly is irrigation system. A shortage of water supply for agriculture activities have been a major problem facing by the northeastern farmers. Most of the cultivated areas are located outside of the irrigation zone and mainly depends on rainfall. This factor is responsible for lower yield and than is other region, and the government is also concerned with this problem. Okay, for Vietnam, the first issue is unstable food price. The unstable food price influence access to food. The food price in the whole country increased by 14.6% in 2017 and surged in 2008. Hunger is likely to happen, especially during natural disaster, bad harvest, or food price crisis. Next is suffer from many kinds of disaster. Vietnam suffer from many kinds of disasters such as flood, rainstorm, storm surge, riverbank, hail, drought, landslide, and so on. Water-related disasters are also one of the serious disaster because most of the population live in these areas susceptible to flooding. Over 60% of Vietnam's population is at risk from water-related disaster. Next is climate change. The policy on food security is closely linked with government central of rice price. The government will meet difficulty in achieving the objective of economic growth, hunger eradication, and poverty alleviation, industrialization, modernization, environmental stability, and social equality. Last is the delay of the modernization of processing technology. This is one of the major reasons that is the shortage of investment funds. The government, through its international integration policy, allow foreign enterprise to take part in the rice business in Vietnam, spurring a lot of changes in the rice market. Okay, next I will explain about the agriculture policy and rice and paddy related policies. For Thailand, the large-scale farming model, this aims to improve production efficiency and competitiveness by reducing production costs, increasing yield, and aligning production with market demand. Next is flooding and drought support program. This is to increase in the budget, especially during the year that problems spread to many provinces, other than effort from government agencies or other institutions to solve this long-run problem. Other means such as research and development of short growth rice RD51 have been implemented. This type of rice has to be harvested price to flood season. And last is the Community Rice Center (CRC). The major aim is the production and distribution of quality rice seed in the community. The quality seed should be made with the minimum standard of the Plant Varieties Act or seed law. Next is for the Vietnam food security. These policy measures indicate the strong political will of the Vietnamese government to prioritize food security through major investment to ensure rice supply. Lastly is fiscal policy. This is to apply a less administrative and more market-based mechanism. The shift from quotas to export tax in being proposed. Next is for the agencies that involved in Thailand. First is Ministry of Agriculture and Cooperative of Thailand. Second is Community Rice Center CRC. Next is Department of Agriculture Extension. Next is Bank of Agriculture, and lastly is the Agriculture Cooperative BAAC. Okay, for Vietnam, first is Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. Second is Ministry of National Resources and Environment. Next is Ministry of Trade and Industry, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Finance, provincial levels, people's committees, Vietnam Food Association, and lastly Vietnam Farmers Union.
Next, I will talk about the type of climate change affecting paddy and rice sector in Thailand. There are a few types of climate change affecting paddy and rice sector, such as flood. In Thailand, there has a monsoonal climate and flood that part of the seasonal cycle and critical for agriculture, especially in the rice sector. Floods are most likely to become disaster when they are unusual in timing or severity. In Bangkok, Chiang Mai, and other urbanization regions, new flood-sensitive settlement and land uses are expanding into low-lying wetland and rice paddy landscape. Other than that, global warming also is one of the type of climate change affecting paddy and rice sector in Thailand. When the weather is too high, it is not good for the production of the paddy. This is because the paddy cannot survive in dry season, and the water resource also will dry. Next, the mitigation plan in Thailand. This mitigation plan is made by the government of the Thailand. First is building capacity to adapt and reduce vulnerability to climate change impact. Next, promoting greenhouse gas mitigation activities based on sustainable development. Then, supporting research and development to better understand climate change, its impact and adaptation and mitigation option. Then, raising awareness and promoting public participation. Next, building the capacity of relevant personnel and institutions and establishing a framework of coordination and integration. And lastly, is supporting international cooperation to achieve the goal of climate change mitigation and sustainable development. This is the climate change that affect in Vietnam. Vietnam faced increase in temperature and reduction in rainfall. Vietnam has already experienced an average increase in temperature of 0.5 to 0.7% and an average reduction in rainfall of 2% in the last 5 decades. Other than that, the Mekong River Delta and the coastal areas in the north of the central region in Vietnam are most vulnerable to the impact of global warming in Vietnam due to rising sea levels. For the climate change mitigation plan, the Vietnamese government has promoted the National Climate Change Adaptation Framework, which emphasizes the role of all sectors to combat the adverse impact of climate change from a large scale to local activities. The local people are aware that they should start to adapt to the gradual change of environment themselves with a change in crop selection to such a shortened length of growing season, shifting the time for planting and harvesting to deal with the environmental uncertainty. Next, the rice and paddy economic feasibility. In Thailand, the location was chosen for typical rice farm, which is located in the northeast Thailand. The soil characteristics of the rain-fed rice typical farm are mostly sandy soils with poor soil fertility and with limited capacity to retain water. This is the typical rain-fed rice farm in Thailand, which name the farm is TH4NE. From this table, we can see the gross revenue. The total is 283,414, and the total direct cost is 101,098. Next, in Vietnam, the location selected for the typical rice farm in Vietnam is the typical farm. VN3LM is located at Lang Minh Commune, Chuang Loc district in the Dong Nai province is about 100 km away from the Ho Chi Minh city. The farm are well connected to a main road and electricity grid and have an irrigation system. Annual rainfall is around 2000 mm with 92% of precipitation distributed from May to October. Average temperature ranges from 23 degrees Celsius to 32 degrees Celsius, which is suitable for cereal cultivation all year round. This is the Dong Nai province, which located in Vietnam, which the farm name is VN3LM. We can see the total gross revenue for the wet season rice is 25 million and for the dry season is 23.5 million. Meanwhile, the total direct cost for the wet season rice is 14.5 million and the dry season rice is 13.35 million. This is the production function for rice sector. The production function are as follows: y equal to f x1, x2, x3, x4, x5. This is the mathematical form, which is y equal to beta 0 plus beta 1 x1 plus beta 2x2 plus beta 3x3 plus beta 4x4 plus beta 5x5 and plus mu. The y is the number of output for the rice, which is in metric tons. X1 is the total of land, X2 is the total of labor, then the X3 is the total of fertilizer usage. Next, the S4 is the total of seed, S5 is the total of machinery, and the mu is the random error terms describe the effect of on Y from all factors other than X.
Next is we can see the graph of average physical product and fertilizer. So we can see from the above graph that the rise in the US use the NPK fertilizer in the production of rice product in Vietnam has caused the APP value to decrease. The decline is very dramatic at the beginning, but developed again. The scenario happened repeatedly until the APP value begins to decline, but the negative value is not reached by the APP variance. Vietnam used 63.595 NPK fertilizer and raised the yield of paddy to 262.72, leading the value of APP to be 410.8. The yield increased by 273.23 hectogram per hectare when Vietnam increased the fertilizer by 0.447. But when Vietnam increased the amount of the fertilizer by 76.3 NPK, the yield also increased. But at the 363.8, the APP value was lower. This decrease is due to the decreased return law, as also referred to the decreased marginal return law, meaning that there will be a point at which marginal output per unit will begin to decrease in production pace as an increase in input chain.
Application theory. Average physical product. Average physical product means the quantity of total output generated per unit of input varies according all the other input constant. The average physical product, usually abbreviated APP, is obtained by dividing the total physical product by the variable input quantity. Thailand has used NPK fertilizer as input to produce paddy yield. So the formula for average physical product equal to paddy yield divide NPK fertilizer. Based on the graph, it can be seen that the increase in the use of NPK fertilizer in paddy yield production of Thailand caused the APP value to decrease. But the decrease in APP value did not reach the negative value. This decrease is due to the law of diminishing. This indicates that the increase in NPK fertilizer caused the production of paddy yield per unit to decrease.
Okay, for the slide, innovation decision-making system. In selecting and prioritizing new ideas and development programs, this paper discusses the challenges faced by decision makers. It is based on an exploratory analysis with interviews conducted as a key competitive element in 3 businesses that have a new product growth. The result shows that the different approaches to decision making and understanding innovation are required to deal with all the circumstances and issues that may occur in the innovation process. However, irrespective of the sustained suitability of these methods to the circumstances, they obtain varying degrees of approval degrees of approval at the organizational level. This places decision makers in the conflictive position of needing to use work methods that are acceptable but not accepted, and accepted but unacceptable at other times. In addition, the ability of an organization to produce new goods and therefore its future competitive depends on how the organizational acceptance of the method used by its member is treated. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so this is the example that I found. Is the figure 1. The United States rice production in 2020 is projected to increase 22%. Okay, for this point, in Vietnam, research has been conducted by Vietnam Agricultural Environment Institute to research the impacts of climate change on agriculture, to improve climate change adaptation strategies and to identify mitigation options. The effects of climate change have been measured in the past, present, and future situations. Past data has shown harm due to severe weather events. Potential vulnerability is demonstrated by current production and environment condition. Long-term effects on crop production have been estimated by future climate change and scenarios and crop growth modeling. The findings indicate that climate change has a strong effect on Vietnam's agriculture. In the past, it has caused serious damage, and in the future, it is likely to cause high vulnerability and heavy loss of crop production. Flatlands have strong impacts than highlands, with the worst impacts suffered by Mekong River Delta, Coastal Central, and Red River Delta. As a nation, heavily influenced by climate change, many weather events and disasters have occurred. In order to cope with these extreme events, the agricultural sector has established effective adaptation measures. In addition to feeding more than 70 million people, Vietnam retains high agricultural productivity but also exports a high volume of food to every other countries. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, for Thailand, it is true that when farmers adapt their rice growing techniques by adjusting the planting date and using suitable rice varieties, climate change can have positive effects on rice yield. More environmentally sustainable farming systems, including conventional organic practices, are also beginning to require rice from importers on the world market. In Thailand alone, rice crops needed almost 0.3 million tons of nitrogen fertilizer in the year 2007. The planting of rice paddies, meanwhile, increases the release of methane, a significant greenhouse gas. In fact, half of the 91.6 million ton of methane released by Thailand is due to the cultivation of rice. It is clear that the government should prioritize production processes that not only increase yields but are environmentally sustainable and raise awareness among the Thai population of climate change. That's all from me. Thank you. I'm going to pass to the next presenter.
Okay, now I will present for the conclusion. In conclusion, the researcher have gained some knowledge about the status of paddy and rice industry in Thailand and also Vietnam. There's huge differences in paddy cultivation and also rice production for these both countries. Thailand has set a high reputation in quality and tasty rice and preferences for Thailand's rice. Over the last decades, rice has been Vietnam's critical crops for national food security. The improvement in rice productivity has been driving force behind the strong growth in its production and significant reduction in poverty from a country with food shortage. Vietnam has become one of the biggest rice exporters in the world. Last but not least, rice and paddy cultivation and also its production is important for the sustainable development, either for the humankind as a basic food in order to survive and also for the nation in increased country GDP. For the recommendation for Thailand, first is to promote the quality of rice production throughout the whole supply chain. Second is the mechanization in rice farming in Thailand has been adopted for a longer period of time than many other Asian countries. Third is utilize appropriate new technologies, not only for farming but also digital economy such as digital technology for timely decision making for farmers. And in Vietnam, they need to improve to the new cultivation method so that they can produce high quality of rice varieties, which also can positively affect Vietnam's share in the international trade and the exported quantities. That's all from me. Thank you.